we're here for the panel discussion, and tomorrow night is the women's panel, and tonight's the men's panel. So we've got Erick Gonzalez, who did the wonderful ceremony this morning, coming from this way. Mike Bara, he's the co-author of Dark Mission. We've got John Major Jenkins. He's the myocosmogenesis guy, and you saw him today. We got Rick Levine. He's the chief astrologer for Barnes & Noble, and he made the wonderful DVD Quantum Astrology. We've got James O'Dea of the Noetic Sciences Foundation, and we have, of course, Daniel Pinchbeck, who you all know, and I'm Jay Weidner. So I'm going to moderate, and I'm going to ask questions, and we'll, unless you guys want to ask questions, I don't really care. I can come up with a few zingers, and then you can follow. All right? So let's lead it off with a kind of a statement. Is there anybody here on this panel who thinks that something profound isn't happening in the next few years? All right. Hand it off to the brave Republican.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Now that everybody knows that one, thank you. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, my presentation today was just about that there could be a physical effect at 2012 with the alignment, and I talked a lot about that. And I think there's a really small chance that that's actually going to happen. I mean, it's really dependent on what we call Planet X being out there between the galactic center and the sun and the Earth. And I think it's a really, really small percentage. But what actually does concern me is that nothing really physical is going to happen, that nothing's really going to dramatically change. I mean, every generation thinks that they're at the end times. I mean, when the millennium turned in 1000 AD, everybody thought the world was going to end, and it never did. And it seems like it just keeps going on. So
yeah, but this one's right.
But this one's right. And what actually concerns me is, you know, what our book is about, what Dark Mission's about, is the secret societies and their infiltration of NASA and various other levels of government. And what concerns me is that they will use it as an opportunity to try something, to pull some trick off.
I've heard that one, yeah.
To do a lot of, yeah, who came up with that one?
Well, Jeff Rentz keeps repeating that, and so does...
well, I don't want to be associated with it then if Jeff Rentz came
well, he does keep repeating it, though.
Yeah.
That this is some canard created by the powers that be. But fortunately, I know John Major Jenkins, and I know that he doesn't work for the CIA, so at least I don't think so. So, what do you think, John?
Perhaps. Oh, well, I guess I'd say, I'm not sure, how does Planet X fit into the galactic alignment?
Well, again, yeah, you want me to repeat my lecture? Basically, you know, in Dark Mission, we talk about the fact that alignments, these alignments that NASA seems to gear their missions to, landing at certain times with the stars in certain places, that this can actually have a physical effect. And we talk about a lot of different physics experiments that have shown that actual planetary alignments do have a physical effect here on the Earth. They can be measured. There's the Allais experiments with the pendulums and so forth. So adding everything up, if you have this straight alignment, the Planet X, if it does exist, if it is 550 AUs out there, if it is as massive and has got as much angular momentum as we think it does, it could act like a big amplifier of what's called a torsion field wave. And this is like way too technical for a panel discussion. But basically, you know, it could add to the effect that you don't normally get. Like in 1998, I talked about how in 98 really basically nothing happened except that something did happen, the wobble of the Earth took a big jump. And so that's what concerns me.
So you're saying that Planet X exists, and you believe that?
No, I'm saying that there's missing angular momentum in the solar system, and what would account for it would be another planet that we haven't found yet. And somebody told me today after my
or another several thousand planets.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, you know, right now NASA tracks, I'm sure you know this, 500,000 objects going around the sun. And we think that there's just, you know, like a handful of big ones, but there's all kinds of things going out there. So there's a Planet X and a Planet Y and a Planet Z, and as Dr. Seuss said, on beyond Zebra, and they all may have some effect or impact.
That sounds like interesting research. I have to learn more about that. I don't think of the galactic alignment as an alignment of planets, though.
It's not.
I mean, you know, because it's the framework of the solstices and equinoxes coming into alignment with the galactic plane, and whether or not that can be proven to have some kind of empirical effect remains to be seen. I mean, I certainly don't think that science has a definitive no on that.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Well, actually, you know, worst comes to worst, if nothing does happen, I mean, hopefully nothing will happen, but I think what we should do and what we can do is we can set up some experiments that I described in my presentation today, which is basically to take these little accutron watches, and they vibrate and they rotate and measure their output when that alignment takes place. And I pretty much guarantee you we're going to have a measurable physical effect, and hopefully it won't be big enough to really mess things up. So that's a great, let's all get together in Albuquerque with my co-author and do it.
Maybe. Okay, so James, what do you think? Hand it off to him there, Daniel. Here, no, go that way. Yeah.
Well, as my grandmother would say, what are they talking about at all? The galactic alignment? For God's sake! I didn't see that. I didn't see that one coming. But I felt something, and so, in the sensorial realm, when I connect with the notion of apocalypse, and Jung reminds us that apocalypse is unveiling. And so it is a time of unveiling. And, my God, were we unveiled last week in congressional testimony when Alan Greenspan, no less a being, when asked about, do you still believe in the self-regulating effect of the free economy and free capitalism, whatever? And he said, no, I no longer believe that. Unveiled, exposed, clear. And this is a time when, even if you're like me, you don't know too much about the wobbles and the galactic alignment, you get a little wobble, but not a big one, that you can know the time you are living in. You can read the patterns, and they are so graphic, they're so clear. Once one steps out of the mental universe, and Daniel was talking about that a little too, this is a time of sensorial, emotional, intellectual galactic alignment in our bodies, where we're freed out of, we're taken out of the totally fixated mental body to re-experience the cosmos. And it's that pushing us out of the delusional, distracted frameworks of contemporary civilization back to being able to feel again that we are interresonant with a cosmic reality.
Yeah. Daniel, you're next. Daniel, you talk in your books about the effect of plant teachers on possibly what may happen in the future. Do you have any further news from the plant kingdom on changes coming towards us?
Not really.
Nothing. He's gone sober.
Yeah, I think that, well, I did have a couple of years ago an experience where a lot of people for a while were really caught up in synchronicities, like this synchronicity and that synchronicity. Yeah. When I wrote Breaking Up in the Head, I used to get all these psychedelic trip stories, and I was like, please, don't tell me your trip stories anymore. And after 2012, I was like, please, don't tell me your synchronicity stories anymore. So maybe it's like a shift from synchronicity to intention. Yeah. That was the message. If you look at a lot of Native American cultures, they really talk about the profound importance of intention. And so I think, like, if you look at our civilization, or whatever the hell it is, I wouldn't really call it civilized, you can ask yourself, like, what is the intention? And you find that there really isn't very much, meaningful intention. So, I mean, even some readings in the Mayan calendar, there's your birth sign, that system, it represents your kind of intention, the blueprint of your intention. So you're given like a third orientation point. You have time, space, and intention. For me, that is a good way of thinking about, being more careful about what we intend.
I totally agree. That was what I was talking about this morning. Be careful what you ask for. Erick, what do you're of Mayan heritage. What do you think of intention as a force to help us through the times we're coming into?
Yeah, we've been observing, listening how the Western world is approaching this relationship, and it's still within a box that it doesn't connect to the reality of what's happening. So our people, the indigenous people, is not that we just talk about things, we live it. We grow with it, we participate with it. It's like we can't just think about a date in the future that is telling us something and then we're not participating how nature is already changing. So we keep resisting and we keep thinking in this cubicle. It's like we were invited to go to Sweden to the Tallberg Foundation, and they're looking at the state of the world. And they were thinking about, well, we know we have to do something different, but they were still also within the little box, trying to find the solutions within the little box. So what happens is, yeah, the indigenous people in the delegation, we went there, but the fear that they will lose control is still very strong. The indigenous people will take the leadership again, because the connection has not been severed, you know. They talk about plants, you know, they talk about all these things, and there's something that we have never disconnected from, but that we live it. We live with our gardens, we live with our medicine, we learn from the teachers, and then we follow the directions, how they are talking to us. You know, so that's what the indigenous people are still doing, and for the last 30 years, I got on the bus with the elders, you know, been traveling with them for a long time, and they said, not yet, don't talk too much yet. It's like the story that some of you know about the twins of the Maya, you know, the Hunachpu and Ishbalamkiech. They still say that the twins are boys. One is a boy, a man, a male. The other one is not. They're still writing about the other as a female, as a male. But it is the impatience of the man in which the society still is governed that is stuck the head out to see if it was time yet. For the Maya and other indigenous people, it's not time yet. It's not time to take the head out, because we have one of those dark lords, they call it Kamasots, took the head of Unahpu. So what happened is many were put ahead of a pumpkin. We talk about the pumpkin head people. So they go around, you know, very eloquent, but the pumpkin head can only last so long, and it starts deteriorating. So it takes about Ishbalamkiech, the female, the healing part, to put Hunachpu back. And this is where, in this Western world, we're still thinking that without the nature, without the healing, without coming out of the box, we're going to find something, and it won't happen like that.
I think that's a great point. I think that is exactly the problem. I think that we're still trying to find the answers within the technocratic creation around us, and it's not to be found there. And but does anybody have any ideas how we break out of this and try to get to a place that rises to a higher place? I mean, otherwise we're going to be stuck here just applying old solutions that don't work to problems that can't be solved.
Yeah, one more thing. The way we're doing it is we listen to the nature, and we go through a lot of our ceremonial life. We go to listening to what is really happening, and then we take action. Our actions now is what they're sharing with us is to grow our food, grow our seeds, preserve what is there, strengthen the ecosystems that are still available to us, strengthen our family, like is being shared here, this knowledge and this wisdom, but then also select. It's like we have to select the seeds. Not everything can get through. And so we have to choose those seeds of what we're going to share, see? And that's where we are doing the indigenous people are still sharing the medicine. You know, I heard a lot of people raise their hands when they said they've been to the places of our ceremonies and drink medicine, you know, go through that healing. And our people, even after the 500 years of what has happened to us, we're still open to share, you know. Our fires, our ceremonies, our temples, our sweat lodges, all of that is still open, because we know that we're all relations. And we know that we have to, like the Kogi, you know, share, we have to share to the younger brother about how to be again in harmony and in balance with nature, you know.
Well, thanks.
I don't think it is an either or, right? I think that's a platitude anymore, but there is something in the acceleration that is confusing our consciousness, and that's good. So we're being forced into more paradox, into more ambiguity. We are in some sort of system that the more we take the pill, the more, in fact, we puke it out. And you know, the people of the Kalahari have a beautiful end time story. They say that Mantis, you know, the little praying mantis who was their spokesperson of the divine. So here they have all the animal kingdom, but they choose the mantis as their and Mantis says something in the food chain is getting poisoned. And he says we must call a grand council of all the animals and have a grand, you know, last supper together. And so all the animals are convened, and except Porcupine, the prickly feminist, says, you know, if the devourer and poisoner is coming, I am going to take the child of the right hand, the child of will, and the child of the left hand, the child of compassion, and I'm going to bury them and raise my quills. So in fact, in their eschatological story, all devourer devours up even the lakes and the rivers and the trees. I mean, this is the apocalypse, isn't it? It is devouring everything in its path. It's desecrating everything. And of course, when it gets to the animal kingdom, it eats them all up. They are literally all devoured except for Porcupine and her children. And she says, when Devourer is sated having eaten everything, she says to the children, rise up, will and compassion combined, and open the belly of Devourer. And she gives them a knife. And here you have this symbolism of, you know, both the right and the left hand coming together, opening, maybe rather violently, Devourer. But inside Devourer is Mantis and all of the animal kingdom. And he says, you know, now we are renewed. Now we will find a new food. And it seems to me the complexity of that story, of the combination of the inner transformation, you know, and the outer agency, the combination of will and compassion, that is our time. We are not going to, I think, escape the reality that we are in. We have to chew on it until such time as we move, you know, to the next, pop to the next level.
Rick?
Stereo.